American government situation is really disturbing me, and I want to fight someone. I really do, because what do you mean we didn't have to get the COVID vaccine? And I feel two ways. One, I'm like upset with myself because I really wish I would have trusted God and not taken the vaccine. I really do. And I remember Tiffany Montgomery saying, "Do not take that poison." But I didn't take it because I was fearful about COVID. I took it because I really needed a job. And at the time, the only job that was available to me was a job in healthcare. And you couldn't work in any healthcare system and not get the vaccine. You just couldn't. Like, it was a no. And I was like desperate at this point. I had just came from a stint of like sleeping in my car for a couple of months of like, I need a job. And that was the first job that was available to me. And I took the vaccine. But as soon as I took the vaccine, my period stopped. My ovaries shut down. I went to the doctor, and the doctor's like, "Are you still getting your period?" I'm like, "Well, it's like intermittent." And he's like, "Well, your body's functioning like a 7-year-old woman in menopause." And I was 32 at the time. And he's like, "The only way for you to have children is to freeze your eggs right now, try to do an IVF cycle, or donor eggs." I tried the IVF cycle from the hospital that I was working in, failed miserably. Okay. I needed like 4 more rounds, and the hospital at the time only gave you like $20,000 for IVF, for a lifetime cycle, because depending on the cycle, it is very expensive. And I did $20,000 my first cycle, and so then the doctor's like, "Well, the only way that you're going to have a kid is if you get donor eggs," which I don't believe in them. I believe that God is going to do his big one when it's time for me to have children. He can do the impossible, so I'm really not worried about that part. But I'm just like, all of the things that I've been through, like my periods are so intermittent. It is really crazy. And I just don't understand how you're going to tell us right now that we never needed to get the COVID vaccine.
This is General Johanna of the Isupk during 2020, during the pandemic, giving his advice to his members as well as the sheep who listen to him regarding the jab.
And let's be real. I want to be real about something with these vaccines, since the whole vaccine jumped off today, right? So I want to be real about it. First of all, everybody should take the vaccine.
Plead the fifth. Plead the fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anything you say, 5. Go ahead, ask me a question. Did you? I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anything you say, 5. Go ahead, ask me a question. Did you?
Shalom. Give it all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rachak Vadash, and double honor to our apostles, elders, and bishops here at Great Millstone for teaching this truth that's going all around the earth. And shalom to the hopeful elect out there. It's your brother Atazawan. We back at it again. We're going to do a quick response. And this response is based on the elder brother here in St. Louis who did this lesson, Salakia. I don't even know what's going to come up now. Salakia, let me get it. The elder brother here, this lesson right here, his channel is GMS, A Lion's Whelp. And his lesson is the fruit of their own way, ISUPK, IUIC will have to answer. And that's 100% correct. All right, first and foremost, if you have not subscribed to the brother's page, please do so. You know, the elder brother goes in real good with all of the different topics that we face today, right? Excellent teacher here. So my lesson is going to be a laying back off of that lesson that he put up today. And it's really dealing with that young woman and General Johanna of the ISUPK. All right. And really looking at how our people look at things. Okay. They're not prepared for the coming evil days. And when you think about it, who were the men, as far as Israel is concerned, that told you to stay away from that? It was the men of the Great Millstone. And you had those other groups that were named, particularly those two, ISUPK and IUIC, who scoffed and mocked Great Millstone, all right, for telling you not to take it. And so now everybody has buyer's remorse and thinks something should be done because the devil played a trick on you. Well, that's what makes the devil, right? He's going to play a trick on you. And so here we are, 6 years later? And now 6 years later, allegedly, because we really don't know. Esau likes to mess with the numbers all the time, but allegedly, 20 million dead from quote unquote COVID, if you will, over the last 6 years or however they counted it. But you were advised, okay, not to take the sticky stick, you see? So here you have this young woman complaining about what the proceedings are with Dr. Anthony, the Grim Reaper Fauci, right? Because that's what I call him, all right? They say his last name means sickle, so that's what the Grim Reaper carries, is a sickle, all right? But anyway, we see that, everybody's, that went ahead and took the sticky stick, are disturbed over what's coming out now. All right. So anyway, I got a few scriptures lined up that I kind of wanted to go into because our people lack faith. They follow the crowd. And even as the young woman mentioned when she got to talking about ovulation and, her eggs and so on and so forth, she says what? She believes that the Lord is going to do his thing when it's time for her to get pregnant. Well, why didn't you have that kind of faith before? When the pandemic was going on, why didn't you have that kind of faith then? That the Most High would see you through. Instead, you broke, all right? You went and complied with whatever it was they said for you to go and do, you see? And then you got the other portion of our people who follow leaders who told them to go do it, okay? So, there are a lot of Jakes out there walking around with their stuff in them, you see? So let me grab a couple of quick scriptures here that came to my mind as I watched the brother's lesson. This is Proverbs 3, and I'm going to start at the top. And you see here it says what? The rewards of wisdom, and you have to have wisdom. And if you don't have it, seek those that do have it, all right? Really, to be truthful, you know that you can't trust these people. So why didn't you search? I'm talking about you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans out there who have woken up to the knowledge of being an Israelite, okay? You know that there's one set of teachers that teach 100% truth, and then there are those who teach but don't give you the wisdom and understanding of the scriptures all the time, okay? Anyway, this is Proverbs 3:1. It says, "My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them about thy neck. Write them upon the table of thine heart," which is your mind, right? Remember these laws. Remember this wisdom, this book of wisdom that actually it belongs to you, okay? Verse 4, Salakia. Verse 4, "So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of the Most High and man." Verse 5, "Trust in the Lord Yahweh with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall," what? "Direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes, fear the Lord." Because why? The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That's the beginning of knowledge. "Fear the Lord Yahweh and depart from evil. It shall be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones." You see? So everything that you come across in your life or that comes into your life and you're unsure, you're supposed to get in this book and seek the wisdom of the Lord and a true man of the Lord, in which the Lord gave you the prophets, right? Starting with the elder apostles here at Great Millstone and the brotherhood on down, and the brothers who are out there teaching the same doctrine, all right, who are, in fact, you could say are part of Great Millstone, even though they don't have GMS in front of their names, but they teach the likewise doctrine. Okay, the brothers are out there. The lessons go up every day, even during that time. Okay, you can go back now 5 years into various brothers' channels, and those lessons are still up. You know, those in which the devil didn't come and take them down off your channel. You know, they took a lot of our stuff down, right, for quote unquote information and so on. But there's still some of them out there. All right, I know I've had several removed from this channel. You know, brothers have lost channels, but you could still find information out there if you was to go back 5-6 years ago. You know, we told you to stay away from it. All right, but going on anyway, let's get a couple of scriptures here, a couple more. 1 Timothy 6:20, O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoid profane and vain babbling and oppositions of science falsely so called, right? You know, so that information or that knowledge they gave you was faulty, all right? And so you have to know the plan of the devil. And so here it is, you had so many Israelites who followed the leadership of both of those other camps. All right, so what's going to happen when the MOTB comes? Because, you know, that was basically a trial run to see how they can quail you, how they can cull you, right? How they can get you to follow along, you see? Because why? The people are like sheep, right? And without a good shepherd, okay, you're going to be led to the slaughter. Ephesians 6, and you see here, it says the armor of the Most High, okay? And it reads in verse 10, starting in verse 10, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. And the brother made a good point. Let me back up. He made a good point about the coming time, you know. Salakia, I lost my thought here. Maybe it'll come back to me. I was going to say he mentioned something in his lesson that was a very good point, and now it just slipped my mind. Well, let's go on with this. Maybe it'll come back. Put on the whole armor of the Most High, that they may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places, right? And so now you're seeing the witchcraft that was played, right, from these higher ups in Babylon's society, okay, who tricked everybody, smoke and mirrors, lies, okay? All right, verse 13, wherefore take unto you the whole armor of the Most High, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day. And having done all to stand, stand therefore having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness, which is this truth, and your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Verse 16, above all, taking the shield of faith, and that's where people come up short. See, everybody will say that they have faith until the evil day comes, until that time of trouble, great trouble comes. And then you'll see whether they really have the faith that they profess right now. While the days are not as bad as they're going to get, you know, you got a lot of people that tell you how much faith they have. Well, if you have faith, why did you not take the advice of several of these leaders out here, and even the Christian churches? Remember, if you go back and remember, they turned their parking lots into sticky stick, jabby jab centers, and had their congregations drive up and get poked. Did they not? Sure they did. You see? Where was that wisdom and knowledge that you needed? Okay. Well, the Lord had men to tell you not to do it. You see? Verse 16 again, above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. What is a syringe in a needle. It's like a dart. Even in this case, it's like a dart. You see? And it comes from the wicked. And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of the Most High. You know, Most High should have kept you. Now, oh, I know what it was. Thawada Yahabashim Yahushai, saying that, you know, those that if you took it and you still here alive, hey, you better count yourself blessed, basically. You know, if because there were, if I can remember correctly, they put certain placebos out there or whatever. Okay, but nonetheless, I mean, I had family members of my own that went and did it, and I told them not to do it, and they went and did it anyway. You know, their argument was, well, you've been getting vaccinated all your life, so what difference does this make? You know, and so on. Makes a big difference because you're living in a different time. Okay, number one, and number two, the gig is up for these people. All right, the truth is out about who they really are and what their plans are. You see, and then 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, when they started doing that, because, you know, as children, your parents didn't know any better, or your grandparents, you know, to take you to get it, you know, told you that you needed to be, have a, you know, a card to go to public school and so on. Then those who went into the military, we didn't know no better. You see? But the mercy of the Lord was upon us that we didn't succumb to it. But now this is a different wicked day, if you can say that. All right? This time is not the same. It's not the same as 50, 60 years ago. All right? Anyway, let's go to verse 18. It says, praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, and watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all saints. You see? So these are the actions of those that are in power, right? And we've said it a million times. You already know what their plan is, right? This is Amos 3:7, and it reads, surely the Lord power will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants the prophets, which was quoted by that man that's known as General Yohana of the Isupk. You know, he loosely paraphrased this later on in that same clip. Okay, but here's the thing. Who are the real prophets? Because you heard, in that piece, he talks about let them work out all their trials or whatever, just take it. And if the, you know, and let the Most High figure out what's going on. Well, you didn't have to do that because you had men of Yahweh Shem Yahushua who told you not to go stand in line and do it anyway. So now you have to know, well, who are the real prophets then? Clearly it can't be nobody in that congregation. Okay. Like I said, this is a quick land back, so we get 2 or 3 more scriptures and we'll be done. You know, the point being that Israel, you know, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, you had, you know, good counsel out here, but you don't listen, you know. And again, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. We'll get the scripture here after I read this. This is Jeremiah 17:1. It says, the sin of Judah is written with a pen of iron and with the point of a diamond. It is graven upon the table of their heart and upon the horns of your altars, whilst their children remember their altars and their groves by the green trees upon the high hills. O my mountain in the field, I will give thy substance and all thy treasures to the spoil, and thy high places for sin throughout all the borders. Thou even thyself shalt discontinue from thy heritage, which, Salaki, that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, right? Which eventually would be what? This place. And we're in the hands of our enemies, and we lost our heritage. We didn't know who we were. We didn't know what our history was, okay? We didn't know that we were the children of the Most High, but we've been living in this last ever since 1969, where the truth has really began to flourish since that day, or since that year, Salakia. All right, that now the knowledge of who we truly are is right in front of you. But at one time, yeah, we did not know, who we were. We were given all of those byword names, such as Puerto Rican, Dominican, Negro, Negroid, Negras, right? Wetbacks, Beaners, right? All those jigs, Indians and such. Okay? Going on in verse 4, it says, "For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever," which is a long time. Okay? Verse 5, "Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, cursed be the man that trusteth in man, and maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departeth from the Lord." Right. Our people had a history of walking away from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Okay? And so here, when you get to this point in this captivity, you trust in Egypt. You trust in the rulers of darkness, those principalities, the people in high places. That's who Jake relies on for the most part. You see? And you trust what these people tell you. All right? That's how you got yourself in that, no pun intended, that sticking situation. Verse 6, "For he shall be like the heath in the desert, and shall not see when good cometh." Right. So the Lord put the good men out here to warn you, and you didn't see it. Okay? "But shall inhabit the parched places in the wilderness, in a salt land, and not inhabit. Blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord, Yahweh, and whose hope the Lord is." You see? So those who did listen and did take the warning from the prophets, all right, stand in good case right now as far as that's concerned. You see? But this is how our people are, easily deceived by these people in power. But the scriptures do tell you that, right? Salakia. Let's see here. I came into Joe for something. Bear with me a quick second. I'm trying to remember what I wanted out of here. It was something that I wanted. It slips my mind. Yeah, let's start right here at 13. "With him is wisdom," right, with the Most High, "and strength. He hath counsel and understanding. Behold, he breaketh down, and it cannot be built again. He shutteth up a man, and there can be no opening." Right, so the same thing with your mind. The Lord didn't give you the vision or the mind to seek out the true men. That was the Lord doing it. Okay? And those that did, it was the Lord who did that. If the Lord led you to the other two groups with their false leaders, that's where you were supposed to be, in a nutshell. Verse 15, "Behold, he withholdeth the waters, and they dry up. Also he sendeth them out, and they overturn the earth. With him is strength and wisdom. The deceived and the deceiver are his." Right? So the Lord, those who were deceived, actually put you in that predicament to be deceived. And so he sent the deceiver, right? Because the deceiver is his as well. So that's what he did. Okay? Let's get the last scripture here. This is Jeremiah 15:1. It says, "Then said the Lord Yahweh unto me, though Moses and Samuel stood before me, yet my mind cannot be towards this people. Cast them out of my sight, and let them go forth. And it shall come to pass, if they say unto thee, whither shall we go forth? Then thou shalt tell them, Thus saith the Lord Yahweh, such as for death to death, and such as are for the sword, to the sword, and such as are for the famine, to the famine, and such as are for the captivity, to the captivity. Yeah, whatever lot you in, that's what it's going to be for you. And so, again, what are you going to do? Because you've been warned all of these years about the MOTB. You still think that it's not going to happen? Okay, you still going to trust in them? You still going to trust in Egypt? You still going to make flesh your arm? Okay, so let this be a lesson to you, right? Because you see the little meme at the end with Dave Chappelle's voice and uh, the good doctor, right? Grim Reaper Fauci. You see, verse 3, and I will appoint over them 4 kinds, saith the Lord, the sword to slay, and the dogs to tear, and the fowl of the heaven, and the beast of the earth to devour and destroy. Okay? And pretty much that's it, you know. So those who did do it and you still here, hey, you know, that's mercy. Okay, so now you know what time it is, and you need to be preparing yourself for what they're going to bring next. All right, and we know what that is, that sea hip. All right, Revelation 13, right, verse 16, 17, you can read 18. Okay, so like I said, I just wanted to make this quick land back off of the Elder Brothers lesson today. It was a great lesson, by the way. And like I said, if you haven't subscribed to his page, please do so. GMS Alliance Wealth. All right. So anyway, with that, I'll close this lesson right here. All right, giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Shalom.